coming with us here. We're pleased to introduce Jennifer Solak. Is that right? Solak?
That's exactly right.
Or is it Solak? I'm not sure.
I say Solak.
Solak. Okay. Welcome to the show, Jennifer. Jennifer's an attorney. Okay. And Jennifer has a chair, right? Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about which chair you participate in BNI?
Yeah, thank you so much. I have the estate planning and probate chair in BNI Synergy.
BNI Synergy, that actually was my old group. I was
Okay.
a member of that chapter way back when. So hello to all my friends over there at BNI Synergy.
Mm-hmm.
Done a great job, as a matter of fact. I know that they've grown significantly during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I think they, at the beginning, there were 18, 19 members, and now there's 27, 28.
Yeah, they're really growing. It's a great group.
Yeah, congratulations to everybody that's putting in some good work over there. So estate planning, probate, and succession. I've always had some interesting questions about, especially about probate.
Sure.
So what is probate?
Probate, that's a great question. So probate is the general umbrella term that is used for the court process that's used to help people transfer title to, anything that they might own in their name when they're no longer here to provide their signature. Most typically that's because of death, but sometimes it's because of incapacity, and so then you might need a guardian appointed of you, and probate is used for all of those things.
So probate, of course, that's by the court, right? I mean, by definition, it's basically you're being assigned, what is it, a judge that makes that decision? And because of the fact that maybe you did not set up everything prior to this being necessary, the judge gets to decide how these are going to be, I guess, distributed, or who's going to be responsible for it?
Exactly. Well, probate's going to be required if you have a will or if you don't have a will.
Okay, so both cases it's required anyways.
Yes, so there are ways to avoid probate before death, so that requires other types of planning. But if you do have a will, you'll still have to go through probate. The judge will approve your will if everything looks like it should and nobody's complaining about it. And then in that case, your instructions are followed. And then if you didn't have a will, your family has to go to probate court and prove to the judge that they're your family, and then the Texas plan takes effect.
The Texas plan.
Right.
That sounds a little ominous, to be honest with you.
Yes, so if you don't take the steps to leave your own instructions in a will before you pass away, Texas has its own plan, and so...
Well, how nice of them to have their own
Yes,
plan.
they do. So, the Texas plan might work for you, but it might not, so it's important to kind of find out what that is when you have the chance.
So the important thing, obviously, being here is make sure you have a will. I guess first and foremost, right?
Yes.
And that's exactly what you provide us through your estate law, right?
Exactly.
So tell me about the main thing that you take care of during a process with the client. Let's say somebody comes to you, say they're in their 40s. What's your typical client, first of all? Is it somebody that's already, middle-aged, past middle-aged? Is it somebody younger? Does it vary?
Well, it does vary. There's a wide range of clients. I would say that whenever there is a major life event, that's kind of the time to start thinking about creating a plan. Maybe you got married, maybe you had a baby, maybe you got divorced, maybe you're retired or your kids are grown up. Those are kind of the typical times, I think, when people start thinking about putting a new plan in place.
Okay.
Much of what we talk about are your family dynamics. You can educate me about what that is, what your assets are, what businesses you own, and then I can kind of let you know how the law is going to affect those families' assets. When you own a business, I think it's really important to have a succession plan in place. And, maybe that's through your will, but maybe it's through the operating agreement of your company. But it's important to think about what's going to happen to your business if you become incapacitated or if you pass away.
So succession plans would basically be who's going to run the business if the main operator, I guess, or the owner is no longer able to do so, right?
Exactly.
And so you said either through a will, right, or through the actual, I guess, operations of the operational documents of the company. Can you help with both of those?
I can, absolutely. So I think it's important for business owners to, I like to say, have their lift systems in place. So legal, insurance, financial, and tax. I think legal is the foundation, and I can definitely advise you as to who are some other great choices for, insurance, financial, and tax.
Right, and I'm sure that a lot of them are BNI members. That's exactly
Absolutely.
what I mean. So for you being part of an organization that'll typically have all of those other cogs in place, and those people that you're going to see every week, I assume that that's got to be pretty important. Have you found that have you been able to make better relationships with those important cogs of people that you're always going to bring into most clients? Or did you already have something set up and this is just now basically an improvement on that?
No, BNI has been invaluable in that regard. I've connected with so many great professionals who all have specific niches and specific people that they're able to help. And so it allows me to provide so much more value for my clients, because when they come to me with a specific issue, I've got the person for them.
Right, right. Yeah, that's one of the great things. I mean, a lot of people don't take into account, when you're looking at BNI, of course, everybody thinks, well, I'm making a business decision, right? This is the best thing for me because it's going to help me grow my business, or I'm going to be able to double my sales, or I'm going to be able to be more effective maybe with the type of referrals that I get. But at the end of the day, it's not just about that. It's also about how you help your clients through other people, right? Through other services that most of your clients need. In your particular case, you seem to be, you're a gateway, frankly. I'm assuming that you're probably a very valuable member of your BNI group. How long have you been a member of Synergy?
I'm just coming up on my year anniversary.
Oh, 1 year. Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm a newbie.
Are you going to be renewing? I assume you're going to be renewing?
Sure.
Okay. And what's the experience for you been like in BNI?
Well, it's been great. I've gotten to learn, I've gotten to meet not only so many other great people, but I've gotten to learn about other professions and how they're able to help people. And so it's been great. And we're located in the Heights area of Houston, but a lot of our members serve clients throughout the metro area. And so it allows me to, pinpoint people in specific areas that can help others.
Has it? So let me ask. That's another question I like to ask BNI members. And you being here for a year, right? So you've gone through the visibility, credibility, all that stage. What's been your best referral? So without being specific about it, but have you gotten a great referral from BNI members?
I have, and I think the referrals that I have received have turned into other referrals, for like-minded groups of people. And I think BNI has really opened that gateway for me in a way that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. So.
Right. Okay. Well, and then on another note, so wills, we talked a little bit about that, right?
Yeah.
It's important to set one up. You mentioned life changes. Of course, let's say somebody through the course of their life has several, let's say they create a will. Let's say you get married, you create a will. Do you need to do anything more after, so you're in your 30s, you don't touch that will, you don't do anything with it. Are you supposed to keep it up to date? Are you supposed to make adjustments? You want to check in on that will and sort of make sure everything's up to date on that? How often do you really need to check in on your will and make sure it's up to date?
So that's a really good question. I say every 3 to 5 years, it's time to just look at it again. Is this still what I want? And maybe it is, and so you don't have to look at it for a while. But
and that's something that you do, I assume, with your
I reach
your
out
attorney,
to my clients. Exactly. Another good time to consider updating is if the law changes. And so, the law does change as Congress makes new decisions. So,
yes.
So we
have there been any changes recently? Let me ask you that. So I'm assuming, of course, a lot of them are with changes in politics, which we're currently going through right now. Normally, there's changes in law, and certainly changes related to taxes and things like that. And
Sure.
of course, everybody talks about death tax and estate tax and that kind of thing. Is there anything that's changed since, let's say, we've had the new president in force?
Sure. Well, I'll say, so last year there was a big change with the Secure Act that came in, and that really changed the way people are able to inherit retirement accounts. So previously, if somebody inherited a retirement account, they were able to stretch those benefits over the remainder of the beneficiary's lifetime, which really allowed you to continue those tax-free savings and not be hit with a large income tax
That's in the
liability.
event that they're still alive but incapacitated?
Well, like, let's say if a son inherited the retirement account from his father and he's 40, he could stretch that out over whatever the remainder of his life is likely to be. So let's say that's another 40 years or so.
Okay.
The law changed that last year, and so with some exceptions for spouses, disabled individuals, everybody else now has to inherit accounts within 10 years. And so depending upon the size of that account, that can be a pretty significant income tax hit, and then Congress is able to get more of their tax money back. So, but something to look out for in the future, I think, with the new administration is right now the estate tax exemption is $11.5 million. So people can pass $11.5 million without having to pay estate tax. And unfortunately, most people don't have that problem. Right? Exactly.
I mean, so listen, people, it's important. You know, if you don't have an estate, what is the tax impact?
Well, so right now, most people are under that, but soon it might change to 3.5 million or 5, and that's going to affect more of middle America.
Okay, so if you're under 3.5, then there's
tax-free coupon.
Tax-free.
Estate tax. Other taxes to think about.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you get an estate tax whether or not you've actually created an estate or not. I mean, there's a vehicle in which you can create an estate, right?
Well, so the estate is all of the assets that make up what you own when you pass away. And you'll have to file that on your tax return, your last tax return.
I understand. Okay. Now, estate planning.
Right.
So estate planning is obviously the process by which you're trying to make it most effective or minimize the impact on taxes?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And what typically are the vehicles that you use to get to that point?
Sure. Well, there's some trust vehicles that you can use after you pass away. Spouses have the ability to pass their estate tax exemption to the surviving spouse, and so there's some trust planning that we can do on the first spouse to pass so that your family can elect how they want to take that tax savings. And so those are decisions that are made after somebody passes away, but we can set up the structure for that to happen when it needs to.
Okay. And then you also mentioned that you do a little bit of business law, right?
Yeah.
Talk about maybe what ideally is your perfect client for business? Are we talking about incorporations of new companies more than anything else, or existing companies? What's the ideal client for you on that end?
You know, I love helping people with contract review. I think that comes up a lot. I think you always need to be sure what you're signing before you sign it. And, you know, it's helpful just to have a quick legal review to kind of spot some issues that maybe you haven't dealt with before, but we've seen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I can also help with, you know, company formation or setting up operational documents and those sorts of things too.
So I've always heard also setting up a company is very important to choose the right type of entity.
Exactly.
As that makes a big difference on how you pay your taxes and how you have it set up. What are the major choices that most people have as far as how they set up a company? And if they already have an existing one and they haven't gotten a point of view from an attorney, okay, that can actually help them set it up more efficiently or more effectively, what would be the process to do that?
I love the LLC. I think it's a great choice. It provides a lot of asset and liability protection, and you can be flexible in how you want to be taxed with that company. So that's, I think, my first choice. Typically, if you plan to do some international work eventually, then you might want to be set up as an Inc. and, you know, a corporation.
Okay. What's your typical process for bringing on a client? Is there an initial consultation? How does your intake process go? So if I'm somebody that's interested in maybe reviewing some documents with you, let's say I want to take a look at my will and talk about my family structure and what I want to leave behind and how I want to leave it behind, what would be the process?
Well, the easiest way is I have a link on my website on the contact page where you can book directly on my calendar for a free call, and then we can talk about what your needs are and whether it's a business need or an estate planning need or a probate need, and we can talk about the next steps there.
Okay, and where would be what's the name of the website?
It's solaklegal.com.
So that's Solak, S-O-L-A-K, right? S-O-L-A-K, legal.com. What about any other way that they can reach out to you? Have an email or phone number that you might want to bring out there?
Phone number is 713-588-5744, and my email is jennifer@solaklegal.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Jennifer.
you.
Is there anything else you want to say? Considering what's going on right now with the pandemic, and I understand that a lot of these things have to be done in person, right? So there's an actual signature that you have to probably notarize, I would think, right?
And two witnesses.
How do you deal with that situation, taking into account what's been going on recently?
So what we've been doing, during the pandemic is obviously everybody wears their masks. We've already reviewed the documents remotely in advance, so we don't, there's no questions. Everybody just stands 6 feet apart and comes up to the table when it's their turn to sign, and
everybody has their own pens.
Yeah, everybody has their own pens. We've got hand sanitizer. We're taking care of everybody.
All right, so they're basically set to deal with you and help you out in the safest way possible. If you need any estate planning or want to take care of your will or have something related to company formation, it's a great choice, obviously. Thank you so much for being with us, Jennifer. We look forward to having you back at some point in the future.
Thank you.
And have a great rest of your day. In the meantime, we're going to have a quick break. We'll be back with our next guest, which is